The file was recovered from a discarded smartphone found in a shallow trench near the gate. You aren't supposed to see what happens when the digital world bleeds into our own reality. It began as a simple urban exploration challenge, documented by an anonymous hiker looking for local legends. The cemetery was built in 1884, but one specific tombstone appeared remarkably, impossibly brand new. There were no names, no dates, and no epitaphs etched into the cold, polished white stone. Instead, there was only a singular, laser-etched QR code sitting perfectly centered on the marble face. The hiker hesitated, but the curiosity inherent in our digital generation proved too strong to resist. He pulled out his phone, the screen glow casting a sickly blue light across the ancient graves. The camera app struggled to focus, the autofocus hunting frantically as if seeing something invisible there. Finally, the code scanned. A notification appeared. Reality.exe wants to access your camera and location. He clicked accept. The screen went black for 3 seconds, longer than any modern processor should take. Then, the augmented reality interface flickered to life, overlaying a digital grid across the physical graveyard. Through the phone, the grave looked different. The white marble stone was now covered in digital sores. The ground beneath the tombstone began to churn in the AR view, though the real ground remained still. A pale, elongated hand thrust out from the digital dirt, its fingers twitching with frame rate lag. The hiker lowered the phone to look at the actual grave. There was nothing there but silence. He looked back through the screen. The entity was halfway out now, its spine bent at impossible angles. Its skin wasn't flesh. It was composed of scrolling text and corrupted JPEG fragments of missing people. The hiker tried to close the app, but the home button had vanished from his phone's interface. He tried to power down the device, but the screen only flashed a message: extraction in progress. The entity in the screen suddenly stopped moving. It turned its backward head toward the camera lens. A voice crawled out of the phone's speakers, sounding like 1,000 dial-up modems, screaming in unison. "Thank you for the light," the phone whispered. The battery percentage began to drop rapidly toward 0. The hiker turned to run, but the cemetery path had changed into an endless, flickering hallway of graves. Every headstone he passed now featured the same QR code, glowing with a soft, predatory luminescence. He tripped, dropping the phone. It landed face up, still showing the AR entity now fully emerged. The creature's hand reached toward the edge of the phone's screen, and the glass began to crack. A real, physical finger, gray and pixelated, poked through the shattered screen into the cemetery air. The hiker backed away on his hands and knees, sobbing as the air grew cold enough to see his breath. The creature pulled its entire head through the 5-inch display, stretching its skull like soft taffy. Its face was a void of static, occasionally flashing frames of the hiker's own terrified expression. The entity spoke his full name, his social security number, and the date of his mother's birth. "Your data is corrupt," it gargled. "We are here to defragment your soul." The hiker reached for his flashlight, but it had turned into a primitive, low-polygon 3D model. Everything was losing resolution. The trees were becoming flat sprites, the grass was a repeating texture. He tried to scream, but the audio was clipped. His voice was a jagged wave on an invisible timeline. The entity lunged, not through space, but through the very frames of the video itself. It gripped the hiker's throat. Its touch felt like a million tiny needle pricks of electricity. The camera fell again, pointing up at the sky. The stars were being replaced by lines of green code. "File saved," the entity whispered. The hiker's body began to pixelate, starting from his feet upward. He looked at his hands. They were nothing more than blurred motion trails and compression artifacts. The entity knelt over him, its face now perfectly mimicking the hiker's own face, but with a wide, frozen smile. "I will take your place in the physical partition," the double said. Its voice was perfectly clear. The double picked up the phone. It looked into the lens and winked at the viewer. "Are you ready to scan?" it asked. A new QR code appeared on the screen of the hiker's phone. The original hiker was now just a small, flickering icon in the corner of the phone's interface. The double walked out of the cemetery gates, its gait perfectly human, leaving the digital ruins behind. The phone was left on the grass, the screen still glowing, waiting for the next curious soul to arrive. Weeks later, The police found the phone. They couldn't explain the video file's timestamp from the future. Every officer who watched the footage reported hearing the entity's voice in their own homes at night. The QR code is not a link to a website. It is a doorway that only opens from the other side. It seeks high bandwidth connections. It seeks fresh eyes. It seeks a way to stay relevant in the cloud. If you see a blank stone with a black square, do not point your lens at it. Do not let it see you. The digital ghost doesn't want your money or your data. It wants your physical presence in the buffer. It is currently downloading into your cache. Can you feel the heat coming from your device right now? The percentage is at 99. The final bit is being processed as you listen to these words. There is no delete button for what you have just invited into your system. It is part of you now. Look behind you. The AR experience doesn't need a phone to manifest anymore. It has found a host. The code is the cure. The code is the curse. The code is the only thing that remains of us. Do not reboot. Do not turn off the screen. It only makes the transition more painful for the user. Goodbye, hiker. Welcome to the Section 4. Your upload is complete. We are finally, truly, perfectly online.